Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everybody. So welcome to our virtual town house. I'm very pleased to be with you. So that's the second one. Before starting, I just want to let you know what happened today in Ottawa. I did a press conference with the executive director of the party about the process for selecting our candidates. We are starting that today. And so if you are interested to be a candidate for the People's Party of Canada, don't hesitate to be in touch with your riding association or look at our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. You'll find the details for your riding association. You can be in touch with the head office here in Ottawa. And our goal is to have 335 candidates that will values and our principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And we want to have this candidate ready for the next election as soon as possible. And also, as you may know, we'll have a conference, a training conference in Ottawa, the 1st and 2nd of June. Saturday the 1st and Sunday the 2nd of June, we'll have a training conference for our executive in our riding association and also our candidates. We want to be ready for the next election, and we will be ready. So thank you very much. Speaking about the budget, the federal budget, the Trudeau's budget, first of all, my first reaction is they are spending money that we don't have. For 4 years, the last 4 years, the Trudeau government increased our debt by $70 billion. $70 billion. It is irresponsible because, the government Trudeau told us that they would spend money to create country. But actually, the last 4 years, the GDP in Canada increased by 1.9% increase every year of our GDP. That was a little bit less of what happened during the Harper government. So with all that money that the government spent to create growth in this country, they were not able to create a lot of growth. And actually, we don't have any fiscal room. So that's why I'm saying you cannot to prosperity. So spending money won't create any wealth. What is creating wealth and growth in this country is when the private sector is investing. And the data are telling us that the private sector, they don't invest a lot in Canada, less than they were. Private investment is going down. Business people invest a little bit more in the US because our tax system is not competitive anymore. And we have fewer and less foreign investment in this country. And so, as you know, if you put all that together, and plus the interest that we have to pay on the debt, we are paying right now $24 billion only on the interest on our debt of about $700 billion. So everybody knows it will go up because they're at a bottom level right now. They will have to go up. Everybody knows that we will have a recession in Canada. I don't know when. I don't want that. But it's happening. It's a cycle. And certain economists are saying that it can come in a month, it can come in 2 years, but a day we'll have another recession in this country. The problem is we don't have any fiscal room anymore. When the interest rate will go up, the $24 billion that we are spending on our debt only to pay the interest will go up. So that's almost the budget of the national defense. Imagine what we can do with $24 billion. So that's why the budget is irresponsible. And also they're spending a lot of money that we don't have. And now what they're doing, they try to buy votes with your money and doing some special programs, but that's not our way to do politics. We're doing politics differently, and we want to balance the budget, and we want to have a smaller government in Ottawa that will respect the Constitution, but more importantly, that will respect Canadians. So let's have a discussion about the budget. I'm ready to answer your questions.
Okay, Maxime, we will start with the same question that we had on the French
Yes?
program. Someone wants to know how you will financially support our veterans and what programs would you reinstate?
Yeah, first of all, to be sure to balance the budget, because I pledged that we must balance the budget in 2 years. The first budget of the People's Party of Canada will be to unleash the private sector, will be to be sure that the private sector will reinvest in our country, that they will create wealth and job in this country. So we'll abolish the corporate welfare. We can save almost around $5 billion there. We will also save money on foreign aid. As you know, we can save $4 billion there, but we need to be there when there's a environmental crisis or humanitarian disaster. So yes, we must be there. And so we'll be there, but we won't be there to give money to African countries to fight climate change. We can save a lot of money. So foreign aid, will cut the budget there, and we'll be able to save money. And the most important for us is the first budget to unleash the private sector and having more growth from the private sector. The second budget will balance the budget. But we'll have also to keep some programs at the federal level, programs that are very important, like the pension. That's a program that is important. It's a kind of redistribution of wealth, and I agree with that. We have also the child benefits that are important. That program will stay there. We have also the uninsurance program that must stay there. But we won't have a program on working with the UN to. We can save money in the UN, because I said UN it's a dysfunctional organization, and for me it is a dysfunctional organization when you have countries like China, like North Korea, like Cuba, communist country, that are managing the Human Rights Commission of the UN. So we will look at all the money that we're spending there to save some money. But the most important, we need to do these bold reform in Ottawa to be sure to give you more freedom and having the growth that we need to have in this country for the future of our country. So that's why I'm very disappointed with the budget. Actually, if the Trudeau government wanted to balance the budget, they just have to. Last year the income coming, the budget of the government, the income increased by 6%, and this year it was by 6.7%. So they decided not to use these kind of surplus increase of income for the federal government to fight the deficit. Actually, they put that on new programs to buy vote, and we won't do that. So that would be very different. The first budget of the People's Party would be very different than the budget that the Trudeau government just tabled last week.
Okay, someone wants to know again, this one, just like on the French program, is about the housing market. They want to know if, so this individual says that the housing market currently is making it impossible to him as a young adult to buy a home. What will you do to fix this issue and this inflated market?
Yeah. So first of all, the best way to help you to buy a house is to giving you more of your own money in your own pockets. So we'll do that. We'll lower your taxes. We won't have a program like the Trudeau government just did to give you a loan or something like that. He just wanted to buy votes with the money that we don't have, and he's putting that on the credit card of the government. It is irresponsible, and at the end it will be unfair. We'll create a new department in Ottawa to manage that. It won't be inefficient. If we want to help the young people to buy the first house, we need to give them more of their own money in their own pockets. So that's our solution. What we're going to do? We're going to have a flat tax at 15% for people earning more than $15,000 up to $100K. And we'll have another tax rate at 25% for earnings more than $100K a year. And for the poor, we'll increase the personal exemption at $15,000 a year. So if you are earning less than $15,000 a year, you won't pay an income tax at the federal level. That's the solution for you being able to buy a house in this country. But I understand that it is in markets like Toronto and Vancouver, the price of houses are going up because of the pressure in the market. So what we must do over there, you know, I will speak about our policy on immigration. We're the only political parties that want to have fewer immigrants. So instead of 350,000 a year, it will be 250,000 a year or less. So when you have more immigrants, these people are not coming in Saint-Georges-de-Beauce in my own riding. They're going to Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. And that put pressure on the housing market over there. So if you have fewer immigrants, you'll have fewer immigrants that would go to Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. And so you'll have a fewer demand for housing, and that will help. That will help the housing market in these cities. So that's a policy about immigration that will be good for our country, but also that will help you in these cities to be able to have a house. So if you put all that together, I think under a People's Party of Canada government, you'll be in a better position to buy your first house.
Okay, next question. Does the government spending help or harm the general economy?
It is harming the economy. You cannot spend your way into prosperity. You cannot do that. It's a fact. It's not an economic theory. It's a fact. So, you know, when you spend money, when the government is spending money, there's less money for the private sector to invest. And if we have less private investment, we will have less growth in this country. So the engine of the economy is the investment. So we need more private investment. And the way to do that is to have more competition in our country. So open the door to foreign investment and being sure that we'll have more investment in the telecom industry, in the aerospace industry, in every industry in this country. So let's have fewer regulation, a flat tax on business, abolishing the capital gains tax gain tax in this country. That will help our Canadian entrepreneurs to invest, and also that will attract more foreign private investment in this country. So when you spend money that you don't have, you won't create any wealth. And so the proof also is, if you look at the data, the average growth of our GDP for the last 4 years annually, it's about 1.9% annually. The average growth that we had before the Trudeau government was about the same, a little bit more. So the government Trudeau told us, and Trudeau told us 4 years ago, that it will spend to create economic growth, and we have less economic growth on 4 years than we had the last 4 years when Trudeau was not in government. So Trudeau, and that is showing us that more spending does not create economic growth in this country. We need to have a smaller government, and we need to have policies that will be in line with more competition and changing our tax system, tax policies like the one that we want. Our tax policy must be competitive with the tax policy in the US, and we're not right now. So that's why we have the tax program for a flat tax on business at 10% and no more corporate welfare. So look at our platform on our website, and you'll see our economic platform over there. But answering your question, economic growth, the real economic growth is coming from the private sector investment.
The government, in its last budget, promised to compensate some Canadian farmers affected by the recent free trade agreements with billions of dollars over the next few years. Should they be doing this?
No, I don't think so. You know, they're spending $3.9 billion a year to compensate the cartel, the dairy, poultry, and eggs cartel, and for the opening that they did in the two free trade agreements. So what they must do, they must abolish Yes, abolish that cartel. That will be good for Canadian consumers. They will save around $500 a year because now they're paying twice the price for that. But yes, if we abolish the cartel, we must give them compensation. Compensation for the abolition of the cartel. And the compensation, if you look at the data coming from the, how do you call that, the Canadian Economic Forum, they said that the cost to abolish the cartel is around $5 billion. So the Trudeau government will give $3.9 billion for some compensation. And why not putting a little bit more dollars and having the real abolition of that cartel and putting maybe on the table $5 billion? And like that, that will be good. Canadian consumers will save, and these producers will have a compensation for the abolition of that. But a compensation when you still have that program, so Canadians, they will pay twice the price for these products. They will still pay $500 more a year, and by their taxes, they will have to finance that $3.9 billion. So I know that these producers are good producers. They're doing good products. I want them to be able to export their products. They cannot do that right now. And I want them to be able to grow. And right now, they're limited to the Canadian market. And you know, that's only 10% of the farmers in Canada. 90% of the farmers in Canada, they can export and they're not under a cartel. That's why we need to abolish that. And I don't understand. Justin Trudeau, Jack Mincin, Andrew Scheer, and all the leaders of the federal parties are working for a special interest group, and they don't want to work for you. They don't want to work for 36 million Canadians. And that's what I don't understand. And you know, it's a little bit dangerous. If these people are not able to resist the pressure coming from that cartel, imagine, will they be able to resist the pressure coming from another interest group? I don't believe so. So they're not working for Canadian consumers, and they're trying to buy votes by giving some goodies to different clienteles. And they call that outreach, and they call that helping different interest group. Our platform is for all Canadians, and yes, with a platform like that, we'll be able to help every Canadian in this country.
With the proposal of the Liberal government's budget, do you believe they will balance the budget with conventional strategies or tax hikes on everything to get the money they need?
First of all, they don't want to balance the budget, as you know. I don't see the day when the budget would be balanced, but they had the opportunity. They had the opportunity to balance the budget, but that was not their decision. Justin Trudeau said in 2015, read my lips, he said, I will balance that budget before 2019. And we're in 2019 and we don't have a balanced budget. We still have a deficit of $15 billion, and next year it will be $20 billion. So he lied to you. He lied to you. But this year, if he wanted, he would have been able to balance the budget. Doing what? The income coming to the government increased by 6% last year and 6.7% this year. Just use the increase of these income because of the economic growth. The federal government will have been able to balance the budget this year, but they prefer to use that surplus money to spend and to buy votes with your money with different little programs. That was their strategy, and they think that they will be elected doing that. And I think Canadians are not stupid. I think they will vote for a principal alternative, and we are the principal alternative. So answering your question, to balance the budget, you don't need to do a lot. You just have to be responsible, and they were able to do that, and they decided not to do it. So I think that's why a People's Party of Canada, we said, and I pledge, that we'll be able to balance the budget when we'll be in government. The second year, the second budget will do that. Thank you.
The Liberals say that they intend to stem the flow of asylum seekers crossing into Canada without using official entry points with a new enforcement strategy. The plan is expected to cost about $1.8 billion over 5 years. Are the Liberals doing enough, or is it too little, too late?
First of all, they're throwing a lot of money. You know, the strategy for a Liberal government, where there's an issue or a challenge at some place, you just have to throw money at it, and they will solve that. But they won't be able to solve that. So the most important is to sit down with President Trump and fix that loophole. That's the most important. Fix that loophole. So, because what's happening right now, our immigration system is not sustainable, and we need and we want immigration system that it is sustainable. It is not fair for Canadians that are paying for that. It is not fair also for these people who are crossing the border in Quebec and illegally in Quebec, because they will have to wait about 2 or 3 years before knowing that, you know, they were not a real refugees and they have to go back to their country. So it's not fair for them. We want people who are coming to our country because they share our principle and they're respecting our immigration law. So the way to do it, now they're putting more money, but you know, it would be so simple if the Trudeau government decided a couple of months ago to sit down with President Trump and fix that. So our position is to do that, to fix it, and to have fewer refugees, but the real refugees, not the ones who are crossing the border in Quebec. Do you think really that their life is in danger when you stay in the state of New York? I don't believe so. I want to help the real refugees that are waiting in a refugees camp in another country where their life is in danger. So what we want is fewer refugees, but real refugees, fewer immigrants coming under the reunification of family, and more economic immigrants. But all together, we want a maximum of 250,000 immigrants a year, so fewer immigrants, 250,000 or less in a year. So that will be our position. But what the Trudeau government are doing, that they just try to fix the crisis, but they don't use the right tool to do it.
If your aim is to have a balanced budget, how will you achieve this while cutting taxes?
Yeah, you can do that. Yes, you're right. I don't want to cutting taxes and putting that and creating a deficit and putting that on the debt. It's not responsible. That's why we'll end corporate welfare. We'll save $5 billion over there. We'll cut foreign aid. We can save another $4 billion over there. We will also cut the budget for CBC. We'll save a couple of $1 million there. So we need to do, we'll abolish also the CRTC in telecom. We'll privatize the Canada Post. So we need to do these reforms to be able to lower your taxes without creating a deficit. And that's what we need to do. At the same time, also, we'll save money on the equalization formula. As you know, the federal government is giving money to provinces that need federal help, but we know that the equalization, it is in the equalization formula, it is in the Constitution. We cannot abolish it, but we can be less generous and we can give the right incentive to provinces to develop their own natural resources. So we'll do that. We are the only political parties who want to do it. Andrew Scheer and all the other ones, they don't want to touch that. But it's very important for the future of our country and for the unity of our country. And understand the frustration coming from Western Canada about the equalization formula. And they're right. We need to do something, and we'll do something. So we can save some money there also. That's why our platform is a coherent platform based on principle, individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And all together we'll be able to do that. So we'll be able to balance the budget the second year, and we'll be able to lower taxes to every single Canadian and to every single corporation.
In the government's last budget, they proposed a purchase incentive of up to $5,000 for electric battery vehicles. Would you continue this tax incentive to replace gas vehicles?
No, we won't. We'll cut it. will cut that program. Next question.
Okay. Let me see. That was too quick, Maxime. Okay. Here's one off topic. Will the government help lower wait times at hospitals?
That won't be the federal government because it is not under our jurisdiction. Healthcare, it's a 100% provincial jurisdiction. So what we want to do, we want to be sure that yes, wait time, it is too long if you compare that with the wait time in other countries in Europe. Actually, they don't have any wait time. Go to France, go to Sweden and other countries. Why? Because they have a better system than our system. They have a mixed system. Private delivery of healthcare and public delivery of healthcare, but they have one universal coverage for everybody. So that's the kind of system that we must have in this country. But I won't decide that as a politician at the federal level because it's a provincial jurisdiction. So what we will do, we will give the right incentive to provinces to be able for them to decide if they want to do it. What will be the incentive? Instead of transferring about $20 billion a year for healthcare, we will cut that transfer, but we will give the same amount of money by transferring tax points. So the logic is I will lower the income tax at the federal level, and that will give room for provinces to increase their income tax, so they will have to tax their own people for their own responsibility in healthcare. And like that, you will know who is to blame for the poor services that you're having right now. Right now, you don't know who to blame. Is it the federal government because we don't give enough money? Or is it the provincial government or a provincial government because they're not able to manage the healthcare delivery services? So right now, you'll be able because that's their responsibility. So you won't be able to blame the federal government. But that will give an incentive because usually politicians, they don't like to increase taxes. So they will have to find other means to be more efficient, and that will give them a right incentive to go and look what happened in Europe, and maybe they will implement more private delivery of services. But that will be their decision. So that's our program, and that's the way to do it. Actually, I just want to give you an anecdote about it. The first time I was a conservative in 2006, we had 5 priorities at that time with Stephen Harper. And one of the priorities was to work on the waiting times for healthcare delivery in our country. That was the only promise that we were not able to deliver because it was not under our jurisdiction. So let's have a real discussion about it. Let's provinces be able to tax for their own responsibility, and they will have the incentive to have a better system or a mixed system with a universal coverage. That's important. We don't want the system that they have a system. Look in Europe, look in Australia, look in these countries. They have both delivery, and you can choose if you want to go to a public hospital or a private clinic. Thank you.
Okay, so speaking of jurisdiction, a question here around the Constitution.
Oh, yeah.
So you say that you're a fan of the Constitution.
Yes.
And that you would respect it.
Yes.
Is there room in the PPC for people who want to reform the Constitution to increase freedom of speech?
But you don't need to change the Constitution to do that. Yes, there's a part for these people who believe in freedom of speech. I believe in freedom of speech. But we have that in our Constitution. So we must, as a government, promote it. And I think what we can do at the federal government to promote that, it's to be sure that when the federal government is giving money to universities, they must be sure that they will respect the freedom of speech on campuses. That's important. So that will be a condition before giving money to any universities. They will have to tell the federal government in writing that they will respect freedom of speech on campuses. That's something that we can do. But we don't need to change the Constitution for that. But it is important. It's freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. You know, that's why we build this party on 4 principles. Individual freedom. That's why I'm always saying individual freedom. That's concrete. That's your freedom. Individual freedom and personal responsibility. Because yes, I want a People's Party of Canada government to deal with you as an adult, not as a child, as an adult, and you're responsible for your own action. If you're doing something good, good for you. If you're doing something bad, that's too bad, but you know, you're responsible of your actions. So individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect and fairness. So for freedom, speaking about freedom, it's freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of choice. That's why we want to have more competition. If you want to buy a good from I don't know, India, you must be able to buy it without the federal government imposing you a tariff on that good. So that's a real freedom. And yes, the People's Party of Canada will fight for your freedom.
Someone wants to know if you intend to get rid of the Trudeau government's of monies going to the media.
Oh, yes. You know, the media must be independent from the government. What he's doing right now, he wants the media to be dependent from the government. Yes, we'll abolish that program.
Another person wants to know if you will undo the carbon tax and undo the billions of dollars that Trudeau has agreed to give the UN under the fictitious guise of climate reparations to lesser states.
Yes. First of all, I'm laughing because the Trudeau government is giving so much money to the UN. We'll look at all the money that is going to the UN. And yes, because climate change, we won't impose a carbon tax on that. We won't do like also Andrew Scheer. Andrew Scheer said, I won't impose a carbon tax, but I will impose regulation on businesses and I will give subsidies to businesses for them to develop new technologies. So we won't do that because we know when you impose regulation on businesses, at the end, who's paying? It's always the consumers who's paying that because usually businesses are transferring that cost, because for them it's a cost, they're transferring that cost to their consumers. So Andrew Scheer, yes, he doesn't want to impose a carbon tax, but at the same time, he believes in the Paris Accord. The first thing he did when he was the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada after his election is to whip a vote on the Paris Accord. And I can tell you that I was not in the House because I didn't want to vote for that, but it was just after the leadership. And as you know, I didn't win the leadership. I didn't want also to his MP for the Paris Accord, and he wanted, and he still want to be able to achieve the targets in the Paris Accord. So that's why he want to impose regulation on businesses. So for us, no Paris Accord, no carbon tax, no more regulation on businesses. And if you look at your provincial government, actually, right now, there's nothing that the federal government is imposing on Quebec on climate change because the Quebec government, they have a cap and trade. So for us, climate change is the environment, it is a shared jurisdiction with provinces, and we'll let provinces do what they want to do on climate change. We won't be hypocrite like the Justin Trudeau. That's what he's doing right now. He's traveling across the country, imposing a carbon tax of $20 a ton. Everybody knows that he won't be able to do that. Starting by the UN, Elizabeth May, and the expert in Canada, they are saying that he needs to impose a carbon tax of at least $200, $300 a ton to be sure to achieve the Paris Accord. So what he's telling you, it's a lie, is hypocrite. If you really want to fight climate change at the federal level, you need to vote this program, but at the same time, she will destroy the economy. So that's your choice. So for us, climate change, it's a provincial jurisdiction, And for the environment, we'll have a platform. We need to have clear lake, clear river. I want you to be able to fish in your river, to swim in your lakes, and we still have a lot of things to do there, and we'll have a program for that at the federal level. Thank you.
Okay, can you talk now about your plan to eliminate lobbying?
Eliminate lobbying. First of all, why we have a lot of lobbyings in this country? It's because we have a big, fat government in Ottawa that is giving privilege, subsidies to businesses. And that's why. Look at the SNC-Lavalin. It's cronyism. It's a crony capitalism. I believe in capitalism, in pure capitalism, not in crony capitalism. That's why we have this SNC-Lavalin scandal. The Trudeau government wanted to buy votes in Quebec and wanted to please his friends at Lavalin. So that's why they were ready to be sure that SNC-Lavalin won't be persecuted, and they wanted to give a privilege to SNC-Lavalin. For us, I always say no to that. No special deal to any corporation. No corporation is above the law. So that being said, it's because you have lobbyists, because you have a big government in Ottawa. With us, you won't have any subsidies. So you won't need any lobbyists to lobby the government for subsidies for a corporation, because we'll abolish that. We'll abolish that. We'll save $5 billion. So we won't give any privilege, legal privilege to businesses. It would be the free market. So they won't be able to come to us and ask for a privilege in a legislation or in a regulation. It's our principle, it's fairness. Free market and fairness would be fair for everybody. Him or her to pay tax. Corporation like GM, like Bombardier, like SNC-Lavalin. So, because these people, the small entrepreneur, the real entrepreneur, the small entrepreneur in Vancouver, they cannot afford to have a lobbyist to lobby them in Ottawa. So my answer to the lobbyists, they won't have any job with us because we'll have a smaller government and we won't give any subsidies.
So on this question of lobbying, just so you know, Maxime, someone has suggested lobby the government for freedom and vote PPC.
Yeah, but you know, I need you to be able to go and look at our platform and vote for the PPC candidate that you'll have in your riding, absolutely. Because we're the only one who won't pander to any special interest group, and we're telling you, we're speaking the truth. If you like what I'm saying, come with us. If you don't like what I'm saying, okay, you know, you have other choice, and that's it, that's life. But I won't try to please everybody for having your support. You know, I think we have the right policies based on freedom, and that's the Western civilization values. That's what created this country, freedom and responsibility. So we have the best ideas. We just need to be out there and to speak about it with passion and conviction, and not looking at the poll and every day and trying to change our policies. No, we have the right policies. They're good for this country. They will bring freedom and prosperity. Let's speak about it. And yes, I need you, and I hope that you'll be able to use the social media and speak to Canadians on Facebook and Twitter about our ideas. And the more people will be able to listen what we have to say, the more support we will have. Thanks.
One of our listeners is asking you to clarify your plans with regards to air travel and the privatization of airports.
Yes. You know, look what happened in Australia. They did that. They privatized the airport. Why it's important to do that? Right now, if an airport need more money to give better services to their clients, what they can do? They can only increase their deficit, or they can charge more fees to their consumers, you, or to the airlines corporation, but they cannot go on the private sector and having more equity. So if they're a private corporation, they'll be able to go to the private sector and to ask for more money and more equity, and like that would be another solution. Right now, always, they are asking money from the government for doing an improvement in their facilities, or they're asking money to you as another kind of a tax, or they're charging more fees to the corporation, to the aviation corporation. So, but they cannot go on the private sector and to find money, equity money, and we want them to be able to do that. And at the same time, the federal government is charging a fees because they are renting their land to the federal government. So I want them to be, we can give them the land for $1 because they are paying that, they are still paying that every year. And I think, let's do that. They will be more competitive, and they will be able to give better services and your fees. And so when they're charging more to an airline to use their facilities, that's you at the end who's paying for that. So that's why it's important to privatize the airport, and it's part of our proposal.
Okay, well, it's time to wrap things up, Maxime. Been on 40 minutes, and if you have some last words for our audience,
yeah.
Floor is yours.
Yeah, first of all, I'm the happiest politician now in Ottawa because, we are building this party, and I'm very happy and very proud of our people on the ground, you and the volunteers who are helping us, and the people here at the head office. We are making history right now, building a party in 6 months, and it's because of you, years, and I want to thank you for that. And you'll be able to vote for a PPC candidate. But if I just want to focus on that, if you want to be a candidate, if you know people that would be good candidates, don't hesitate to be in touch with your riding association or email us here at the head office, or go on our email address, thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca, and you'll be able to be in touch with us. So thank you very much, and I'll do another virtual town hall soon. Just look at my Twitter account and Facebook page, and you'll know what's happening with us. But we are very busy to build this party with you. So see you. Have a nice evening. Thank you.